In this section of the video, we're going to look at data types, field properties, and relationships. We've already looked a little bit at the relationships by going to the database tools and relationships view, and we're able to see some of the relationships between tables, but in a few minutes we'll also be able to create and modify these relationships. What we haven't done so far is we haven't looked in any of the tables and looked at the design view of the tables. We've only looked at the actual content of the tables. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to this B only employees table. This database is from a previous assignment I gave that this table was only used in section B of that assignment. Your database project will have a similar sort of some tables will only be used in certain sections. So let's look at this B only's employees table. Right now we're looking at it. You can see here we're looking at it in the datasheet view. That's the datasheet view allows you to view all of the data in the table. We can scroll down. We can see that there are 113 records in this table. That it's got information on our employees. The information has got some things that are a little bit funny. So we've got zip codes, some of which are longer than others. We've got phone numbers that aren't formatted in any way. They're just simply numbers. We have position IDs, which, well, I don't really know exactly what all of those mean. We'll see that in a minute. We've got a yes or a no on whether they're full-time or not. Salary doesn't have any currency formatting. And their hire date is just a number like this. And so we're going to take care of some of these issues. And in order to change that, we don't want to change the data. We want to change the structure and the formatting, the properties of some of these fields. And so we'll do that by entering Design View. So this is our design view for this particular table, the B only employees table. And you can see that here are all of the fields for this table. It doesn't show any of the data, but it just shows each individual field. The first thing we want to do is we have an employee ID. We want to make that the primary key. And so in order to make a field a primary key, we highlight one or more fields. We could highlight multiple fields if it was a primary key composed of multiple fields. But in this case, we just want to highlight employee ID, and on the design tab, which now shows up now that we're in design view, we want to make that a primary key. And so we've clicked our primary key button, and now there's a little key next to employee ID. And so what that means is if we go back to datasheet view, it'll ask us to save it because we made a change. It means now that this field, employee ID, is the primary key and can never be duplicated. There cannot be two records in this table that have the same employee ID. Primary keys must be unique. So back in design view, we're going to change a few other things. You'll notice when we were in datasheet view that employee IDs in this company only have 6 digits. Well, right here in our table, we're storing, you can see that this is a text data type, which is fine, even though it's a number. If we're never going to do math with it, and employee IDs, we're never going to really multiply employee IDs together or subtract them, and so we're not going to ever do math with this number. So it should be a text data type. But we can see down here at the bottom that we have a number of different properties that we can set. One of them is field size. So right now the database for every single employee ID, whether it's only 6 characters long or whether it's longer, is storing 255 characters. Well, for a small little database like this, 255 characters doesn't mean a lot. But if we're starting to store 255 characters, you know, on Facebook or Amazon or a very large company, then, well, that's a lot of wasted space. I mean, it's 249 characters that we don't need to store in the database. So let's change this to 6 characters. If we go and we save this, Access is going to give us an error message and say, whoa, hold on. Some of your data might actually be lost by doing this because you've changed the field size to be smaller. And so if you have any data that's larger than 6 characters long, it's going to be cut off. It's going to be truncated. So we have to make sure we're careful and we get the correct size here. Yes, we want to change this to 6 characters and hit yes. Alright, so the next thing we'll do is we'll change a few other things here. We'll go down to address and say, okay, well, we don't need to store 255 for address. Maybe 50 characters is long enough for an address. For city, maybe we'll change it to 30 characters. So that's just fine. Now for state, what do we think we should do for state? Why don't we go and we'll save this table. and we'll look at state. Okay, well state, it looks like we're using the 2 character abbreviation for state, the state code, that, you know, Indiana is IN, Washington is WA, etc. And so why don't we just use 2 characters? That would be fine. So for state, let's go to 2 characters, and we'll save that.